Welcome back to Regardless. I am so excited that you're all here today. I literally had to just retake that intro 5 times because I'm burnt out. So this episode today, I'm desperately needing. Anyways, regardless, I am so excited to be sitting here today with Elizabeth Rosenberg, and she is the founder of the Good Advice Company. She is a global marketing and communication executive, and she helps executives find their purpose and their story, and she just so happens to also be an intuitive medium. She's incredible. I actually got to sit down with her individually to do a reading, and it's been honestly very healing in my era of burnout. So I'm super excited to be here and share and talk a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm glad we got to do a little pre-work before this too.
Yes. Because I think it allowed me to understand really your art. And so now I think we're in a place where we can just dig a little bit deeper and bring the Regardless fam into it as well.
Let's go.
Amazing. Yeah. So talk to me. Can you define burnout? What does this word mean? Obviously, we hear it everywhere, but how would you define it if you could?
It's funny because I actually don't know if there's a definition.
Okay.
Because to me, burnout looks different to everyone. So I think classic burnout is what a lot of people are experiencing right now. Anxiety, sleeplessness, mental health issues, your stomach hurts, migraines, stuff like that. But I also think that burnout presents in very individual ways to everyone. So, and a lot of people think too that burnout only comes when you hate your job. You love your job.
Yeah.
I loved my job when I burned out. So I also just think we push ourselves so hard in the world that we're living in. And the other thing that I don't think people take into consideration is collective empathic distress. There's a lot going on in the world around us. And when just the vibes get heavy and there's a lot going on and we don't take into consideration not just our work, but your personal life, your love life, your mental health and wellness, your spiritual growth, all of that adds into what burnout can look like. So I think we have to be looking holistically at what it looks like for each individual person.
That's super interesting because it's so true. Even with what I'm experiencing right now, it's I feel my purpose. And after working with you, I was able to look at literally on Gmail what my life's and soul purpose is. And I'm okay, I am living that. Pat on my back, I'm doing it and I'm so fulfilled. But also I'm burnt the fuck out.
Yeah.
So then there's a part of me where I'm well, Sky, do you even deserve to even say that you're burnt out? Because you have a privilege to be doing what you want to do.
Yes, you can. You can say that you're burned out. It's and again, it's very individual to each of us. So if you're saying you're burned out, you kind of need to accept that as truth, because what that also means is that you need to find time to heal. And there is not a silver bullet for what burnout looks like for everyone. So what happens when you start to experience burnout symptoms is that everyone has advice for you.
Yes.
And everyone's oh my God, have you tried this? Go to my somatic breathwork class, or talk to my therapist, or go for a run, or you should do this. And while that might work for one person, that totally might not work for somebody else. It's kind of when people start talking about personal growth and what that looks like for them, and everyone's you need to meditate. And I'm not a lot of people know how to meditate. And meditation is actually quite hard. So why don't you find what your meditative state looks like? Is that cooking? Is that singing in your car? Is that running? Is that journaling? Everything needs to stop going into these very, I think, societal boxes of defined of how we've chosen to accept truth, right? And then we just need to throw the rules out the window. And then we need to really accept what works for us and what doesn't. So yes, you can say that you're burned out, but I also think you need to think about what is the antidote for that? Because the other thing I think people think about is oh, well, I'm going to take a weekend off of work and then that's going to heal me.
No.
That's crazy. It takes a long time to get there. The idea that it's going to take a couple of days to make it go away is a little insane. The other thing too is a lot of the time we can't take time off of work to heal.
Yeah.
So we have to be really aware of the boundaries that we're setting for ourselves and what the rest of your life looks like around it, because sometimes that's just not an option. So I think it's also super unrealistic for everybody to be like, just take 12 weeks off of work.
Or go on a vacation. Like some
yes.
people can't even afford that. We're living in a crazy world right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even a staycation, that's not an option. There's responsibilities that a lot of people have to handle, and it's very privileged to say, here, you get to go do this, and that's gonna heal you. That's just not the case. So
this is something that I'm like currently experiencing as an entrepreneur, and also like not having the same financial stability that I had in my corporate job. I don't have the freedom or the privilege, like you said, to be like, hey, like I'm gonna go to Mexico or Costa Rica for a week and like turn off, unplug. I think specifically being Gen Z as well, and even just for all of us, regardless of age, like you said, there's so much noise right now. Like even on a political like front, there's like political burnout, like from on every area of our life. I think right now, being alive in today's social age, it's like, where do you escape? And most people, I don't think can.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's really bad.
But then you need to really take inventory of what is like lighting you up and what is not. Like what is giving you energy and what is taking it away. So it is actually really like sitting down and thinking about that. So is it your kids that's lighting you up? Is it your Pilates class that's lighting you up? Is it journaling every morning that's lighting you up? If that is what's bringing you joy, then you need to make sure that you're carving out time every day to do that. Because when you are like have this influx of good energy and you have this influx of stuff that is actually getting you excited, it does combat the stuff that isn't. So you have to make time for that stuff.
I love that. And what's like your personal story with burnout? Because I know one of your stories was featured.
Yeah.
So I really want to shed light on that. Would you mind like opening up with us about what went down?
So I've had a very storied career. As we were talking about earlier, I'm a Zennial. So my generation has been very resilient, or we've been taught resilience. I mean, everything from like the dot-com busting to not having a job when I graduated from college to then just getting my feet, a little bit stable, and then a recession hitting and then really getting great in my career, and then a pandemic hitting. And now whatever the world looks like is coming to us, right? So I think resilience has a lot to do with that. I was working at a very big brand. I was doing something that I genuinely loved. I was traveling around the world on somebody else's dime. Like it was a corporate dream. And I ended up having a migraine where I lost all of my motor skills. I drove myself to the hospital. It was one of those moments where it was like, I look back and I'm like, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever done. They thought I was having a stroke. Then they thought that I had overdosed on drugs and they were screaming at me. I couldn't tell anybody what was wrong. I then went into shock. So that story was published in Business Insider. I've since have it on my Medium page, but you can go and read it. I try to make light of what's happening because in all honesty, I look back and I'm like, that was comically terrible and hilarious at the same time. But when I really take inventory of like what the rest of my life looked like I'm pretty sure I was burning out from the time that I graduated from college, and probably even before that. There's just, I think as a type A person and someone who's really driven, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be successful of whatever success looks like for you. Yeah. So you're constantly just like, the burnout is on the edge all the time. And when that big episode of burnout happened, I was like, I did not cause this. This was not burnout. Like clearly there's something wrong with me and I'm dying. Because then you also give yourself all of these other reasons as to what's happening and why it's happening. And then finally, after seeing all these doctors and doing all these things, they were like, you're just super burned out. I was like, no, what? That only happens when you hate your job or when you're like, you're doing things you don't like to do. And I look back at that and also think there were so many signs physically of what was going on with me.
Can you like what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've had migraines since I was a child, but they were definitely getting significantly worse. Sleep was getting significantly harder. I think I was just super anxious. I had had a couple panic attacks, which I had never had before. So I think that there were signs, but mentally I was 10 steps ahead all the time. So I was never going to that place of like, oh, I must be burned out or there must be something going on.
But
It
your
was
body
just,
was like
my body was like,
shutting
hello.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a break. And then when it came time to really like heal, I mean, I was in the hospital in the afternoon on I think it was like a Wednesday. And then Thursday morning, I was back at work. So
Girlfriend.
I didn't even think about, I was just like, wow, that was a really bad migraine. Like I didn't even think about needing to actually take a break. I ended up not really ever taking a break. Like I went from that job next week into like, I moved to another job a few months later. I really had like a week in between jobs. Like I really didn't find the time, but I got a coach, which I think helped a lot. And I really did start putting into practice a lot of the things that I work with my clients on like with now, right?
Yep.
So what your boundaries look like, what's filling you up versus what's not, really prioritizing physical like exercise.
Absolutely.
Prioritizing my sleep, less sugar, less alcohol, like all the things that they like tell you to do, like actually work. Like
absolutely.
The number one thing that I tell all of my clients is get your phone out of your room. Like I do not, I do not sleep with my phone in my room.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
You can do it.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even, it's funny. Like you've said lots of things that have absolutely resonated with me. And I think even for Gen Z, like we've been through the ringer.
Oh my God, yes.
Like,
yeah.
I think I would even say that our word is resilience as well. I think both of us, it's been a shit show. And it's like, how do you find your pivot when you feel like you can't? And what I mean by this is, especially for me speaking, and I know hopefully that I'm a mirror to a lot of the girls that are listening out there, but it's like when you feel like you can't give yourself a break, like I am the same way as you, I'm type A. My parents are incredible supporters of me, and the pressure that I feel is not from my family, it's from myself.
Oh yeah.
And I've been burning out for sure since I was I've been dancing in professional dance since I was like basically 3 years old.
Yeah.
So if you look at like sports and school and then trying to get into college, SATs, being in sports, post-college, like I've been grinding.
Well, okay. So in 2008, I was within like 18 months, I was laid off. I was fired from a job, which was unbelievably humbling. So anybody out there who's been fired from a job, it will not define you. If anything, it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it was like, all right, here you go. I then moved into another job. I was laid off like less than a year later because of a merger. Like there was nothing that I was doing wrong. And then we hit a major recession. I was 27 years old. My mom was hysterical. She was like, you're going to have to move home. I'm like, I would rather die. I will figure this out. I will be fine. I was living in an insanely expensive apartment because I was like, had this big job with like my first like real big paycheck and was like, okay, this is going to be incredible. The best advice that I can give your generation is to be humble. I nannied, I babysat on a retainer. I had a great situation set up. I had an Etsy shop. I was freelancing. I was working even for some people for free so they would understand what kind of like thing I was offering. And while I was looking for a job. So I was willing to do anything to make the amount of money that I needed to be able to sustain this lifestyle that I had created, which was not fancy by any means. And that freelancing just continued. And I was networking. I mean, I'm a fucking hustler. Like if there is a white space, I will find it. Like if anybody had told me, 10 years ago, even earlier in my career, like, oh, you're going to be doing this and you're going to be an intuitive medium, I would have told them they were insane. But there is a space for it. And I've created a reputable brand for myself
100%.
where it's not something that people are like, oh, that's weird. Now it's like an actual value proposition.
I mean, you're going into organizations and corporations.
Yeah.
So it's like legit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would just say, be humble, work hard, and like find something that you really love to do. Like I knew from the day that I started PR that I was not only really good at it, but I really loved it. And I had a great mentor who like reinforced that for me and constantly kind of like pushed me to be better at it. And I worked really hard.
Yeah.
So like you can't, I have a really big issue, especially in this kind of like, as people are working in personal development and spiritual development, with the idea of manifestation and just like that you can write things down and all of a sudden all your energy is just going to invite in all this stuff. Like that's not how that works. Like you can't just click your toes together or your heels together and just assume that like a job and like an apartment and like the love of your life is going to show up on your front porch. I'm sure that has happened for some people and I think that's phenomenal. But I also think a lot of manifestation comes into, it works with the work that you're doing. And it's that combination of the hustle, the work, and the positive attitude and like the energy that you're putting out there, which makes greatness happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And even just thinking about regardless and really what stands behind regardless and the pivot and the framework, it's like, first of all, you have to know yourself. So like, what are your values? What are your intentions? Like also you have to know the bad parts of yourself, like what typically tends to get in your own way, whether it's limiting beliefs, self-doubt. And then the second part to it is like actually living that. And that's where we actually manifest that, because you can think one way, but if you're not accurately representing that, if you're not accurately stepping into who you truly are into the world and taking action, then you're not driving your life.
But I think the biggest issue right now though is that people don't actually know themselves.
They
don't know their values. They don't know what they stand for.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this is really doing the work to look inside and stop defining yourself according to what you want everyone to define you as, but more what you want to define yourself as.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think also like even coming back to burnout, what is your advice to women like myself who I'm a go-getter. I'm literally very similar.
You are a mini me. I love that.
I'm a mini you. Like I do not sit in the back seat. I'm like opportunity.
You're the driver.
I'm there. Like I'm driving it. But what advice do you have for people who are showing up, who are taking action? And even for me, like thinking about my layoff, I never gave myself a break. I just was like, where's work? I'm freaking out. I'm stressed because looking at the landscape of the world that we're living in, we don't have that freedom to take a pause because of how freaking crazy it is to even live. I mean, how expensive things are. So like,
well, and also just how fast everything is.
Exactly. Like, what would you say to girls out there who don't really like they want to take care of themselves, but they feel like they can't? Like, how do you pivot in those times?
I think the biggest issue that a lot of my clients run into is following the path of what was presented before them or what they're supposed to do. What I thought my life was going to look like at 25. And then at 25, what I thought it was going to look like at 40. And even now, what I envisioned it would look like at 50. I'm not 50, but if it, when I'm there, it doesn't look anything like that. So I think the best advice I can give you is to be more present, is to like really, again, know what lights you up, but also take the people into consideration around you too. Are these people along for the ride? Are these people that are lifting me up, helping me be a better version of myself? Not everybody needs to be in your life forever. And it's hard to like kind of coach people on that and give them that counsel because it's like, I don't want to like ditch my friends or I don't want to do this, but like there are people in your life at different times for a reason. So just take that for what it's worth. But I also really counsel people into not putting so much pressure on what you believe everything is supposed to look like. And when you compare yourself to the people around you is when you are actually at your worst. Because what their lives are and how they're presenting their lives to be are never the same. So it's like, I think the hardest age is honestly like 22 to like 35 because you're like, my friends are getting married or they have this different job or they've moved to this place. And because of social media, you're just constantly comparing about what your life and your successes and what you're deeming successful looks like in comparison to everybody else. So for me, the best thing was always getting off of social media. Now, that's so much easier said than done in a world that is driven by content creation, in a world that is driven by likes and shares and I think personal brand of what that looks like in the world.
Just marketing.
But I am actually very hopeful that we are going to have kind of a change in what that looks like as AI continues, as there's more deep fakes, as we really question like what's real and what's not. Because when you're in real life, that's as real as it gets. Yeah. So we need more of that kind of lens on things.
Whoa.
How you feeling over there?
No, I'm feeling good. That was super dope for me to experience. Because I do think one of the catalyst to my burnout is comparison to myself.
Yeah.
And comparison with other people around me. And what I mean by comparison with myself is thinking, okay, my dream with starting this podcast is like to be a podcaster. But like Sky, it's gonna evolve and like be open to like what that career path looks like.
Yeah.
And I think how I get in my own way, and I think for a lot of us is not being where we thought we were going to be and just feeling like we're always running and chasing after that dream or that vision every day when it's more of just being present and like being open. I really resonate with that.
I also think write down what a North Star looks like. Like I think one of the dumbest questions anybody can ever ask you is where do you want to be in 5 years and 10 years? I always ask my clients this question for a specific reason because I'm always curious what their answer is. And 99% of the time, they're already doing half the things that they said that they want to be doing more of. I'm like, you could already be doing this, right? It's like, in 5 years, I want to be going on like European trip and I want to be doing this and I want to be reading books. I'm like, you do realize you could just read books right now. You could spend every Friday night cooking and making something new. And I think we just are so set in the daily things that we have to do. It's like I have to go to the grocery store and I have to clean my house and I have to get my work done and I have to work out and I have to do all of these things. But we don't actually schedule in the other things that like are where we want to go as well. But I do think when you put together a North Star, in comparison to not just the things that you want to be doing, but actually how you want to feel when you're doing them. So I tell everybody in relationships too, don't write the list of what you want this partner to look like. Write the list of how you want to feel when you're in your relationship with this partner or partners, right? Because then you're going to be really changing your attitude of what you're inviting in as well. And I feel the same way about like just career and life. So, but I always think a North Star is a great exercise because I look back on mine and I'm like, oh my God. If I had this dream that I was going to be a CMO to like a VC and I wanted to be, running the comms for all these things. I can't imagine if I had that job right now. I would be absolutely miserable.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How have you like pivoted away, not that away is the right word, but like away from that, I guess? Like how do you pivot to make sure you are in alignment with your purpose to get to where you are?
The reality is there's a lot of times where I still think like that I don't feel like I'm getting the same recognition as colleagues who are in these big jobs. Which I feel like I could very easily have. I could very easily be a chief comms officer at a big brand. But then I think about the kind of crisis that I'd be handling, the type of internal politics I'd be handling, the international relations that I'd be handling, the, earnings calls. And I'm like, oh God, why? Like, I can't.
No.
I know it's like, I look at those things and I'm like, ugh, like that's the recipe for burnout. Like I will be miserable. And is it worth it to me to be making a little bit more money than I'm making right now, to have to travel the world all the time, which is really fun when you're younger. It is not as much fun when you're older.
Sustainable.
But it is really fun. So if you ever get a chance to do that,
Oh,
I highly
I'm
recommend.
like, hell yeah. But I was like agreeing with you.
I
Yeah.
loved it. But I can't imagine doing that now. And I just think like I know that my personal, like my physical and my mental health would really struggle in that kind of role again. So why don't I take all the things that I'm good at, comms, storytelling, coaching, the spiritual aspect of life, and bring those all together to help the people that are in those jobs be better at their jobs. And once I kind of like nailed that, because again, that's all the things that like light me up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I have my brand. Like I know what I want to do. And I like still to this day, I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this. Like it's kind of crazy.
How did you release the vision and step into this unknown?
The pandemic really helped.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, I stepped away from a job. I would have left whether the pandemic had happened or not. I mean, honestly, I left, I quit a week and a half before the world closed down. So that was like hour by hour at that point. We had no idea.
Wow.
And I didn't know exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
But I knew that like there was change that needed to be had, and that like I couldn't, that job wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go. I also think there's something really weird when you turn 30, you have like a very different outlook on life. When you turn 40, it is totally different. When you turn 50, I hear it's totally different again. And I think every year that you kind of move forward, you just like give less fucks. You're just like, okay, like I really want to focus on what's important to me, and I want to focus on what I want to do. And I think the pandemic also did give us quite the gift in appreciating the life that we have. Yeah. And everybody being very cognizant of the fact that we are alive, and that we're not going to be here forever.
No.
So it's every time I do a reading, there's always somebody, not every time, but like every time I talk about doing readings, everyone's like, are you going to tell me when I'm going to die? I'm like, what? Heads up. You're going to die. I don't know when it's going to happen. Like that's what happens. This is like we are born and then we're not here anymore. But it's like there's a lot of fear around that. So that's the other thing too, is I think in my own like personal and professional like development, I've gotten very excited about living. And that helps me be present, but that also reminds me like do the stuff that's really fun. Like say yes to the things. Like we get to experience so much stuff while we're here. Like why are we not taking advantage of that? And if you're stuck in this thing that you hate all the time, like it's such a disservice to yourself, you know?
You can pivot. You can get out of it.
Yes. And I don't want people to fear pivoting if they don't have a safety net, or if they don't have a budget, or if they don't have something. Like every really good pivot, I think, starts as a side hustle.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so I always like to think of it as if it's a scale. So it's like if you're in a full-time job, give your job 90%, side hustle 10.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you've figured out that balance. Your side hustle's 20%, your full-time job's 80.
Yep.
Eventually when you get to 60 and it's totally switched, you're like, oh my God, I can make money doing this side hustle and I can really start focusing on this. Then all of a sudden your full-time job goes away.
Yep.
You're freelancing, you're doing whatever you need to make the bills, but you're really focusing full-time on this side hustle that is lighting you up, and you're figuring out ways to monetize it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because like when I mean pivot, I don't mean like, but like totally like I think for me with building regardless, like I started it in college and I built it alongside of a very demanding sales job. And like that is, it's been a lot of work, but regardless, it was like the biggest gift I could have given to myself, because when things go haywire or things don't work out, like you have a purpose, you have something that you're seeding and you're tending to that is like that juice to your soul. And so I think pivoting looks different for all of us, kind of the same way that we heal and we tend to burn out. Like I love what you were saying before. It's like how we heal our burnout is going to look completely different from our friend next to us versus the other friend. Like it's going
at different times in your life,
Yeah.
right? So like your burnout is going to look different when you're 25 than it might look when you're 35. It's just because you have different things going on in your life around that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
I realized as you were talking to, another piece of counsel is like really start studying business acumen. Like get smart about business. If you want to have your own business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a lifestyle brand, a content creator or anything, you need to learn about business. So you can't just, or I don't recommend just starting a side hustle and jumping into it without like understanding the nuts and bolts of what that side hustle is in terms of overhead, in terms of, you know, cost of goods, like all of the tax ramifications. Like even at business school, there's so many things that they do not teach you about running a business. It's shocking.
Yeah, that's why I
think about that.
I've gotten my MBA doing this.
Yeah, life experience is
it's been insane. How have you, like, from being in the hospital to having a stroke, or was it a seizure?
Oh no, I just had a migraine.
Oh, but
It was
didn't
literally
they say that?
I lost all my motor skills.
Okay, so
they thought I was
they
having
thought
a stroke.
that you had a stroke. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you, like, over the years, like, heal that? Like, how are you now? Do you feel like you were able to heal it?
That is such a good question. And out of all of my burnout things, no one has actually ever asked me that. So I find that fascinating. I feel like healing is an everyday activity. So I think having kind of an accountability partner, I have one friend, and it's funny, I never designated her this person, but every time I talk to her, she's like, okay, you sound like you're doing really good. Or I'm worried about you're on the precipice of burnout again. And always like, like I thought I was fine. I had no idea. Because I also think like we build up stamina to it. So you get more used to like feeling crappy.
Yeah.
And then you need to really just listen to your body and listen to your mind. And you're like you almost have to schedule check-ins with yourself. Like, how am I feeling? Does this feel good, or does this feel like it's too hard? I really do believe that like sleep is a great indicator. And I know everyone is having a lot of issues with sleep.
Oh, I've like literally insomnia. It's fine.
So much of it, I think, has to do with the digital world that we're living in. But I also think a lot of that is due to anxiety.
I agree. And just like your nervous system being completely hijacked.
Yeah.
And for me, like I'll be up at night and like all I can think about is like, regardless, it's all my business.
Yeah. And that's learning how to calm your brain down.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing that all day long, you need to learn how to shut your brain off at night so you're not doing it in that time. So for you, it's like almost like you need to turn your phone off at like 7.
For me, I'm like,
just be like, sorry, everyone.
That sounds like heaven.
Well, just do it.
But I'm like, I have so much other things to do, like create content for tomorrow. And it's like when you're a type A go-getter, it's like someone needs to actually take my hands and like.
Yes, you are the person that needs to do that.
Yeah.
When you start, and I know you've had Kareen on the podcast and she's talked about time blocking and all that stuff.
Oh, I know. That's been
time blocking is really important. I also think you need to recognize if you have 10 things to do on your list.
Yeah.
You are never going to get all 10 things done.
I needed this today.
Never. Don't all need to happen today. Probably don't all need to happen ever. Because you're going to get the top, let's say 4 things. Okay, fine. You may not even get the top 2 things done today. So think about like, what are the have to haves and what are the nice to haves? The nice to haves will probably never get done. That's fine. Because you're going to have new have to haves that are going to add to the list. When I first started working at this ad agency, I every Friday would send an email to my boss, and it was all the things he wanted me to accomplish. And I would be like, here are the things that we can get done this week. Here are the things that we can't, but are still on the list.
Yeah.
4 years went by. There were still things from week 1 that were at the bottom of the list. Things just take priority, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not get, and again, I'm telling you this as another person that's like, I love to cross things off a list.
Feels so good.
I know. Sometimes I will write things down just to cross them off. So I feel like I got things done. That is totally okay. But you need to know you're never going to, you're just never going to get everything done. And that's also okay. That's
needed
you
it.
being too hard on yourself.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I'm burnt out. It's like no one, I mean, there's also other things happening as well. But it's, if I gave myself the space to actually like heal, like I would be healed.
Yeah. The other thing too is I think many women are innate helpers.
Yeah.
We jump in to solve problems because you're like, it would just be so much easier for me to fix this for you. Like I can just do this. The hardest piece of coaching advice that I ever got was you're only allowed to help people who ask for help. And I was like, well, I'm in PR. How am I supposed to do my job? Like my job is helping everyone. And she's like, no, if they need help, they will ask for it. So I no longer get off the phone saying, how can I help you? Great. Thank you so much for this fun conversation. What do you need? What can I add to the mix? I don't care. If they specifically ask me for something, I will know that they're asking for help. Now, I'm also at the point in my career where I'm like, okay, you asked me for something. This is how much it costs. Yeah. So I also know my value. And I know how to ask without it sounding totally inappropriate, right? Because I know, and I have a proven track record of what that return on investment is. But I think it's a terrible, really feminine trait for us to constantly wanting to be helping people all the time and thinking that they're incapable of helping themselves.
Yeah. And my friend always says this, and it's just allows me to understand, like if I'm not putting on the oxygen mask if I'm not giving myself the oxygen mask first, then how can I help or be of service to other people?
Best, like I always joke about that especially like PR people and coaches, it's like we're all on the plane and we're like running up and down, the aisle, putting the mask on everybody else. And everyone's like, put it on. And you're like, yeah, I got this. And then the plane goes down and then you're like, but at least the press release will say that I saved everyone's life. And you're like, no, that is not, you also wanted to be saved. So yeah, you really do have to think about that.
Okay, I have a fill in the blank for you.
Okay.
So regardless of blank, I am blank.
I would say regardless of my corporate title, I am as successful, regarded, and valued as my peers.
Beautiful. It's powerful. I needed that as well. So
titles are nothing. Titles are titles. No. They're actually quite silly, but we've determined that they are the end all be all of success. And I know 25-year-olds who are CMOs, and I know 65-year-olds who are CMOs. So it really just stop defining yourself by what we societally believe is success, because that's just not what it looks like anymore.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I know this is very fun. I had a great time.
It's like, honestly, it's so funny how people just come into your life at like the perfect time, and you really like were like a gift in a very kind of chaotic time. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I also think that that's a great lesson to everybody as well. Like the universe tends to put the people in your path when you need them most. Acknowledge them when they're there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you might be missing an amazing opportunity.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.